So how do you install the supercharger? I'm going to start with the front and go forward. We can't see this. But you have to install your radiator. There's 4 bolts on your... Okay, so the first thing you have to do is install your radiator for the supercharger. That's for the internal cooling. You can see it's pretty big. It's the biggest radiator I have right now. You have to connect up your hoses to it. You have to connect your hoses. You have to install your water pump, 2 hoses. Here's the plug that goes into that. I haven't mounted my rectifier. I have to get a bolt so I can do my riv nut. Basically, you're going to drill out this little hole, put a riv nut in there, and then mount your little piece on there. Get that out of the way. So far that's pretty good. This is one thing I don't like. That nut, your top mounting nut is right next to it's literally touching your hose. I may have to take that apart and then find a way. I might have to grind down that nut so it doesn't touch. For the street, that might be okay, but if you're racing, when you're racing, things can't touch each other because they'll wear through for sure. And for racing, that's going to wear through. Or if you have it long enough, that's going to wear a hole in there. So I have to, and getting this clamp on there, that was a pain in the butt. So I might have to undo that, grind that nut down or something so it doesn't hit. Try to clearance that somehow. Alright, let's try this again. Technical difficulties. This is not a video on disassembling the car. There's lots of videos on how to disassemble, taking off your intake, things like that. Okay, you guys can find that. Plus, I got so excited I just started doing it. I forgot to record anything. But again, this isn't really a how-to video, just kind of a step-by-step, just kind of showing you the process, what I'm going through, again, behind the scenes, what I'm going through to get this car going. So we're installing the supercharger. Again, I showed you the radiator. The water pump is installed. I'm just going to go around the engine bay here. This isn't in order, but all these things have to be done. Again, I've got things done that they say to do after you put the supercharger on, but basically I'm getting every step done because the supercharger is going to be the last thing I do is put on there, because there's little things I'm doing still. I'm not completely finished with other modifications I'm going to do. Okay, so you have to install your relay switch here. There's a ground wire right there. There's the wire that goes down to your water pump. You have a wire here that goes over to your evap solenoid, okay, which is right over here. I'm going to get to that in a minute. You can see your hoses are up here. The purge tank is going to mount basically right here, right by the fuse box. That you can't really put. It's going to be in the way when you put the supercharger on, so that I'm not putting on until later. I have my alternator removed. That's going to be in the way for installing the supercharger. I don't know why they have you leave it on there. There's a bracket you put on here. Okay, I might put that little bracket on. But basically I want the alternator out of the way. I don't know how hard it's going to be. Who's going to be helping me put it on there? So I figure just get that out of the way. Just to save energy. Keep that out of the way. You have to disconnect your ECU. They say unplug it. I don't know why. The wires only can move so far. This is going to be your biggest hang-up installing it. Is there's a bolt back here. You have to get that supercharger underneath that. Okay, that's going to be one of the hardest things. They have you route your wire for power right over here for the relay. They have you out. They say run it in front of here. But I also have my fog light wires here, and while I had both of those, I popped off the fuse box. There's 3 bolts, and they slide under here, and they're not pinched. They still move. So it's just enough room to slide behind there without being pinched, and then it tucks it out of the way so it's a little bit neater in the engine bay. So you route your wire. I don't like the sound of these pulleys. Seem a little loose. I think I'm going to put new idler pulleys in while I have a part. What else do they have you do? Okay. So you have your evap. There's a little bracket here for your evap canister. You mount that. Here's your hose for your evap. So you're going to redo the factory hoses. There's a hose here for that. That I'll connect on after I have the supercharger on, so it's routed the way I want. Okay, I want to see the finished product, how I want it routed. I have my extension cables in. These they say add after the supercharger's on, but I'm like, why not just do it now? It's just one less thing to do later. Again, I'm getting everything ready to go. This radiator hose sticks out. They have you trim this back. So this radiator hose has to be trimmed back. They have you reroute this transmission cable. It used to come in the front. They have you reroute it behind, so it's not in the way of the supercharger. Again, your evap line is getting replaced. This I actually really like a lot. Your inlet for your fuel is moved over here for your high pressure fuel. So that I like a lot. They have you take off that big piece, that big bracket with all those pieces everywhere, and just mount a little tab right there, which will go to my flex fuel right there. They have you loosen up the air conditioner. They do have you move out of the way because you're going to need that out of the way. There'll be a little bolt right there. That'll be kind of a pain to attach, but not really. You can go between the runners of the supercharger, so I think I'm going to leave the nut right in it and slide it on there and get the wrench, bolt it down. What else? That's really you're taking all this time. There's not that much to do. It's really just these couple little things, and these little things really, it's the first time kind of going over it and looking at the instructions and going through everything. It seems like it's a lot more, but it's really not. You could have one page of instructions just to reroute that hose. Okay, another page of instructions to reroute this cable, another page or two just to put in this evap valve. I'm also test fitting my intake. Again, they say this is the last thing to do, but I'm still working on things, so I'm test fitting it. But that's it for this video. This is like the pre-prep thing. So yeah, for me, I don't know what I'm doing with the evap. If I'm going to run it or delete it, or run it for now and delete it later. I'd kind of like to make that decision so I know what I'm doing with the hoses, so I don't have to mess with those later. But I'm working on that, or maybe I'll leave it all intact, ready to go, so I can do it either way. I'm setting up my breather system. I can't find a good spot to mount my canister. I want the canister on the driver's side. There's really not room. There's room on the passenger side, but then I have to run extra hoses. I guess that's better than nothing, but I don't want to do it that way. But that's probably going to wind up having to do it on that side and running a vacuum line all the way around the engine bay. Guess that's better than nothing. But I'd like to get a stronger vacuum. But I think that's it. Another pre-install video. Again, subscribe, like, and share. Thanks.